got this violence in Mexico now after the killing of a cartel boss. Lots of Canadian tourists have had their favorite spots cut off or made a lot less attractive. We know Cuba's going through a fuel and economic crisis, and a lot of Canadians reluctant to travel to the US. Let's get more on the broad tourism industry and recent events in this geopolitical environment. We're joined by Adam Sachs, president of Tourism Economics, an Oxford economics company. Adam, thanks very much indeed for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Could you start off with Puerto Vallarta in Mexico? Obviously, a tragic story, and apparently lots of Canadians trapped down there, and tourism flights from this country have been halted.
Indeed, and one hopes it's a temporary situation. Typically, the resort tourist areas have been well protected and immune from this sort of violence. So hopefully we see that rectified. It's certainly a challenge for Canadian tourists who have significantly avoided the U.S. over the past year. Canadian travel to the U.S. fell some 23% in 2025, increased about 10% to everywhere else. And so, indeed, it matters quite a lot to Canadian tourists, especially those that are stuck there right now.
And a threat to Mexico. Generally, though, Mexico has been anxious to keep violence out of the big tourist areas, obviously.
Indeed, and it's almost been a sort of détente or an understanding that we leave those areas alone. It's in everyone's best interest. But it does seem like the gloves are off, and so there's a level of uncertainty. I think what it does bear mentioning that what we've seen in the past, that even when there is this sort of violence and disruption, things can be brought back to normal relatively quickly. Tourists have incredibly short memories when it comes to these sorts of issues. So provided that security is restored, we could see tourism to Mexico restored within a matter of months.
From what I can see, tourists have not been an actual target here. I think the cartel gunmen have been burning vehicles, ordering people out, but not actually attacking tourists.
Indeed, and I think that's one of the reasons for encouragement that provided transportation schedules and infrastructure are in place, you could see things, I think, very likely brought into a stable place for tourism before too long.
The Cuba as well, though, that's been a favorite, a cheaper destination for Canadians, and a lot of people not going there either.
Well, indeed. I mean, but there is, I think, similar to Mexico, there are resort areas that are largely immune from some of the external security issues. And so that I think those are still options moving forward, provided things don't devolve significantly.
Talk to us about America's tourism industry. It has been damaged. You say that right now, and I think this might be for last year, the U.S. was still 14% down from 2019 levels just before COVID. So the U.S. has lost a lot of tourism revenue.
It's been a disaster, frankly. I think it's fair to look at the White House's set of policies and rhetoric and say that it's just been one unforced error after another. And so whether you look at visa fees, the defunding of Brand USA that markets the U.S., travel bans from certain countries, concerns about immigration, not to mention geopolitical tensions that have been, largely the effect of not relating well to friends and allies, frankly. You've seen the response. Tourists can go anywhere, and they have largely avoided the U.S. So we've seen a decline of 5.5% in 2025. But as you mentioned, that's 14% off of where we were in 2019. So you're 6 years ahead of our prior peak, and we're 14% and 11 million visitors down from where we were. We don't think we're going to get back for another 4 to 5 years. So you're looking at 10 full years, a lost decade of any growth and substantial losses in the meantime.
I guess it is, according to Bank of America, it's not a gigantic sector, but it's important. It's 3% of GDP, tourism. I'm not sure if that's all external tourism, but, and I guess regionally, places like Maine have been hurt very badly.
Indeed, anywhere, particularly bordering Canada, these destinations have suffered acutely. And while as part of GDP, you may say, okay, we can wash over that to some degree. It's a significant part of the U.S. trade balance. In fact,
Yeah.
tourism historically is one of the only areas, in fact, the only significant area that the U.S. has historically had a trade surplus. That is, visitors to the U.S. spend more than U.S. residents spend abroad, typically. Well, that has completely gone into reverse. And so I think it's ironic that with all the attention put on things like tariff to try to amend the U.S. trade balance,
Yeah.
the administration is doing so many things to hurt the trade balance in the one area that we have had historically a competitive advantage.
I know, and the president's latest set of tariffs is supposedly based on a poor balance of payment situation for America. So, yeah, it is ironic. Yeah, I do want to visit Texas, but I'm too scared of ending up in a camp in El Paso, so I don't think I'll be going there anytime soon. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Adam Sachs, president of tourism economics over at Oxford Economics.